Talk, music, get it all.
24 hours.
On West Africa Democracy Radio. 94.9 FM Dakar.
WADR. You can listen to us on 94.9 FM in Dakar through our website www.wadr.org. WADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's 6 p.m. in Dakar, 7 o'clock in Cotonou. Good evening and welcome to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide at wadr.org. Here are the top stories. Ivorian politician Louis Bion puts ego aside, calls for dialogue with PDCI political leader ahead of October presidential poll.
By myself, no one can win alone. It is a team that prevails. I can put my ego aside. Dialogue is always possible.
One Senegalese soldier sustained injuries, another reported missing following a clash with known state gunmen near the Gambian border. Attorney General rejects call for President Mahama to suspend proceedings on petitions seeking removal of Chief Justice Tokono.
The purpose of the petition we have gathered is to malign the head of the judiciary, orchestrate her removal, and thereby silencing the judiciary, and finally to exert control.
And Guinea-Bissau extradites 4 convicted South American drug traffickers to the U.S. Details of these stories and more coming up shortly.
You are listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
My name is Sankule Janko. Many thanks for joining us and warm welcome to our listeners across the sub-region and beyond. This edition begins in Côte d'Ivoire, where the opposition PDCI executive Jean-Louis Bion reiterates his call for dialogue with the leader of the political party, led by Tidjane Cham. He also called for a revision of the electoral roll. Jean-Louis Bion made the call when he served as a guest on a program hosted by a private Ivorian television station. Augustine Coley has the details.
Why Jean-Louis Bion continues to denounce the irregularities that, according to him, have marred the organization of the political bureau and, more recently, the party's fractures convention, he nevertheless reiterates his unwavering commitment to the PDCR. The politician emphasized his commitment to working for the party's victory in the next presidential election. During his speech, he launched a new call for the party's vital forces to unite, insisting on the need to heal internal wounds and start anew on a sound basis in strict compliance with the founding texts of the party.
By myself, no one can win alone. It is a team that prevails. I can put my ego aside. Dialogue is always possible. With dialogue, we can understand each other and become stronger.
Jean-Louis Bion also advocated for a truly inclusive election open to all candidates wishing to run. He notably mentioned the case of former President Laurent Gbagbo, as well as that of his former minister Charles Blegude, whose full participation in the electoral process he called for. Addressing the issue of the electoral roll, Bion expressed serious concerns about observed irregularities. He therefore calls for an automatic and rigorous review of this roll to avoid any future disputes and ensure the credibility of the election.
Not the revision. It is permanent. It takes place all year round. It only stops 1 month before the elections. So, those who pass away are removed, and those who reach adulthood are registered, and this should happen automatically.
These statements by the PDCI executive come amid the party's activists' unanimous vote for Tidjane Cham as the PDCI candidate for the October 2025 presidential election.
A report from our Abidjan correspondent, Marcel Ariston Blay, voiced by Augustine Coley. Elsewhere, Guinea-Bissau has transferred 4 convicted South American traffickers to the United States as part of a judicial cooperation agreement between the two countries. The 4 men were convicted following a record cocaine seizure. They were arrested during Operation Landing, conducted by the Guinea-Bissau Judicial Police on September 7, 2024. The operation resulted in the seizure of 2.6 tons of cocaine hidden on a plane parked at Osvaldo Vieira International Airport. Abdullah Hassan completes the story.
The 4 men were arrested in an operation dubbed Landing, conducted by the Guinea-Bissau Judicial Police in September 2024. The same operation also resulted in the seizure of 2.6 tons of cocaine hidden on a plane parked at Osvaldo Vieira International Airport. On January 6, the Bissau Regional Court sentenced 5 individuals 17 years in prison for their involvement in this case. According to the ruling, the convicted person's assets are to be confiscated for the benefit of the state. The Guinea-Bissau government explains that the transfer of the 4 traffickers is part of a judicial partnership with the United States. The objective is to strengthen the fight against transnational organized crime, particularly drug trafficking. The operation that led to the arrest was made possible through international collaboration involving the U.S. Drug Enforcement Agency, the Maritime Drug Trafficking Analysis and Operations Center, and Interpol. In a statement, the Guinea-Bissau authorities reaffirmed their commitment to combating drug trafficking and supporting the efforts of judicial institutions and national security forces. The country has long been considered a hub for cocaine trafficking between Latin America and Europe. According to authorities in Guinea-Bissau, the country intends, through its cooperation, to demonstrate its commitment to breaking away from transnational criminal networks.
Abdullah Hassan with that report. Here in Senegal, a soldier was injured and another went missing after a clash between the Senegalese army and non-state gunmen in the town of Jinaki near the Gambian border. The tragic situation was revealed this Thursday by DIPA, the Army's Directorate of Information and Public Relations. In recent months, Senegalese soldiers have stepped up operation in Bignona Department of Casamance in southern Senegal region. According to the Army's Directorate of Information and Public Relations, a military detachment was attacked by a group of armed men on April 16. However, the Senegalese military authorities assure that all necessary means are being implemented to find the missing soldiers, stating that operations are continuing in the area with a view to securing the population and their property. We continue in Senegal because a proposal for a treason indictment has been submitted before the National Assembly against former President Macky Sall. A member of the Pastef parliamentary group, Guy Marius Sagna, introduced a resolution on Tuesday accusing the former president of high treason. Sagna cites irregularities in public finance management highlighted in the latest report from the Court of Auditors. This report indicates that the former president concealed a debt exceeding of 4 trillion CFA francs. With this latest development, a key question arises. Are Marius Sagna's arguments compelling enough to prosecute the former Senegalese president? Well, Professor Guy Gorgui, a Senegalese historian and political analyst, weighs in on the matter.
I think the President of the Republic of Senegal is protected by Article 99 of the Constitution, which clearly states that the President of the Republic of Senegal is not accountable for anything that he does during his mandate apart from high treason. And it's not about figures, it's not about handling the economy. It's about something more important. That isn't something you do against the nation. To me, a new government, a new president have been elected by the population of Senegal. What is expected by the population of the country is for that government, for that president, to face the music and do what is expected from them. That's to say, to improve the living condition of the people. If they are not able to do that, they have got to resort to something else rather than to manipulation, because this is an attitude which really diverts people from what is most important. What has been seen so far is simply people who have won the elections and who want to, retaliate.
That is Professor Gorgui Dieng, a Senegalese historian and political analyst. He joins us during the guest interview for more analysis.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In more legal matters, Ghana's Attorney General, Dr. Dominic Ayin, has rejected calls for President Mahama to suspend proceedings on petitions seeking the removal of the Chief Justice. His remarks come after the Supreme Court once again adjourned a case aimed at stopping the President and the Council of State from continuing the process. Meanwhile, the minority in Parliament says the petition for the removal of the Chief Justice are an attempt to malign the judiciary and set the country backward. From Accra, WDR's Nadidi Teti reports.
Ghana Supreme Court on Wednesday adjourned to May 6 the hearing of two interlocutory injunctions seeking to stop proceedings on the potential removal of the Chief Justice, Gertrude Tokonu. This marks the second adjournment following an earlier one on April 9 to allow for state attorney training. The matter revolves around three petitions for the Chief Justice's removal, which President John Dramani Mahama has already forwarded to the Council of State for advice. Speaking to the media after Wednesday's adjournment, Attorney General and Minister for Justice Dr. Dominic Ayin responded to calls by his predecessor, Godfrey Wadr, who had urged the president to pause the process until the court makes a determination. Dr. Ayine maintained that President Mahama is constitutionally required to move forward with the process regardless of the pending court application.
First of all, he has to understand that this is the performance of a constitutional duty, all right? And the law is very clear that you cannot enjoin the performance of a constitutional or public obligation. And so, for me, I don't see the point that he's trying to make by saying that the president must hold on to the process.
Meanwhile, the minority in Parliament says the petitions are an attempt to tarnish the judiciary. Addressing the press in Parliament, MP for Swami, John Dakar, urged religious and traditional leaders to intervene.
The purpose of the petition we have gathered is to malign the head of the judiciary, orchestrate her removal, and thereby silencing the judiciary, and finally to exert control.
According to Article 146 of Ghana's Constitution, where the petition is for the removal of the Chief Justice, the President shall, in consultation with the Council of State, appoint a committee consisting of two Supreme Court justices, one of whom chairs the committee, and three other persons who are neither MPs, lawyers, nor members of the Council of State. For WADR, Nadidi Teti, Accra.
In a related development, victim-led organizations in the Gambia have expressed their support for a recent U.S. court verdict against former Gambian soldier Michael San Korea. On Tuesday, April 15, a court in Denver found Korea guilty of all 6 charges related to torture and conspiracy to commit torture, marking a landmark ruling. Korea, a member of the Junglers, was also found guilty by jurors during the week-long trial for his role in a plot to torture individuals suspected of opposing the regime of former President Yahya Jammeh 20 years ago. He faces a potential sentence of up to 20 years in prison for each of the 6 counts of which he was convicted. Sriandao, chairperson of victim-led organizations in the Gambia, described the mood among the victims following the verdict.
Very welcome news as victims, especially those who have been working very tirelessly and really reaffirming the survivors and their pain that they have gone through. So much welcome news, the verdict that we got, really elation among the victim community that yes, justice might be slow as we've seen, but it is there. And really this goes to really assure the victims that what happened to them in this country is indeed something that people feel for them, and not just Gambians, but it's really more globally, the entire human race. This is a global recognition of their pain and suffering. So definitely much welcome news that we've been really advocating for and hoping that this will be the outcome. And really, again, you puts it across that no matter who commits the crimes and where they go, justice will be served one day along the line, whether it is in the Gambia or outside. And really, we are very grateful to the international community, the United States, Switzerland, who had prosecuted Usman Sonko, and Germany, who are taking their resources to prosecute, by law, for taking on their responsibility as international partners.
Syrian Dao is the chairperson of the victim-led organizations in the Gambia, AVLO. Crossing over to the Central Sahel region, particularly Mali, where the banking sector begins a 3-day renewal strike this Thursday. The National Union of Banks and Financial Institutions is demanding the release of 2 EcoBank employees who have been in prison since last March. Negotiations have been unions between members and the government to reach a consensus have not materialized. Christopher Aticho has the details in the following report.
Banks, insurance companies and financial institutions will remain closed at least until the end of the week. This strike by Sinabef follows the arrest of Biram Job and Alhassan Toure. The two EcoBank employees have been in prison since early March for their involvement in an alleged financial embezzlement case related to the Malian energy company. The banking union is demanding their outright release and is threatening to paralyze the banking sector. Hamad Duba is the Secretary General of Sinabef.
Faced with injustice, with abuse, we will not back down. And I don't think there is an authority that accepts us suffering injustice. The strike is maintained until further notice. 120 hours renewable if our comrades do not return to work.
The head of the National Union of Banks and Financial Institutions also reiterated that the freedom to strike is a constitutional right.
No one can dissolve the union. To dissolve the union, the constitution must be reversed. And the constitution is the supreme norm. The right to strike is constitutional. And we are fighting precisely for this transition by combating injustice.
It should be noted that the National Federation of Petroleum, Commerce, Insurance and Banks states that it is not affected by the strike. As a reminder, discussions between the union and the Ministry of Labour have stalled.
More explanation in Niamey from our correspondent Mutala Zubairu. You are still listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world on wadr.org. Here is a recap of the top stories. Ivorian politician Louis Bion puts ego aside, calls for dialogue with PDCI political leader ahead of the October presidential poll. One Senegalese soldier sustained injuries after reported missing following a clash with non-state gunmen near the Gambia's border. Attorney General Jakes called for President Mahama to suspend proceedings on petitions seeking removal of Chief Justice Tokorno. Still ahead in the news, Niger and Nigeria relaunched diplomatic talks to renew bilateral relations after months of border conflicts. We also have the guest interview, sport news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
In Liberia, away from the Sahel in Niger, citizens grapple with financial losses after the digital assets platform CBEX allegedly defrauded investors reportedly absconding with approximately 1.3 trillion naira, equivalent to $800 million. The platform had promised 100% return on investment within 1 month, leading many to feel deceived once again. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission of Nigeria, EFCC, has launched an investigation into the situation. Usman Umar reports.
Crypto Bank Exchange, also known as CBEX, emerged in Nigeria's investment landscape as a digital assets platform, attracting numerous investors with its attractive promise of doubling their investment. However, recent developments revealed that the company has allegedly fled with an astounding sum, leaving thousands of investors in despair. Victims of the scheme have reported difficulties in accessing their funds and have raised alarms about the company's sudden disappearance.
Everything for Libya. I come back. My neighbor told me, if the program is our stand now on ground now, if you do it, it will help me. Then I should go and find the money. Small money I bring for Libya. I join where I should do it. I don't want to do it. Yeah, the money is there. The labor, he collect the money. I see the money. Labor he collect. He say I should join it. If the money, he will times 2. Then I do it.
This situation has elicited memories of previous Ponzi schemes in Nigeria, such as the infamous Mavrodi Mondial Money Box, otherwise known as MMM, which devastated the savings of countless individuals. The perpetual emergence of such fraudulent schemes has led to widespread distrust in the country's investment sector, as many Nigerians are left questioning the safety of their investments.
I believe is really worrying the society. One is poverty and gullibility to make easy money. I can really blame this happening to part of the system that is working with the government. The reason thing is that when this set of things comes up, the government has the opportunity of scrutinizing them very well. I don't understand. When you are even going to investments, what is the capital of those companies setting up this type of thing? They are not backing industry. There must be a decree or certain things supporting them for the establishment of this sort of thing in order not to corrupt the society.
In light of this recent incident, the EFCC has begun investigating CBEX to ascertain the validity of the claims and to determine the fate of the lost investments. As the investigation progresses, investors are left hoping for recovery and accountability, while financial analysts urge caution in future investments, emphasizing the importance of due diligence in a landscape marred by deception. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Well, in Niger, Niger and Nigeria have taken steps to ease diplomatic tensions in recent months. The last initiative follows the visit of Nigerian Minister of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Maitama Toga to Niamey on Wednesday. During this visit, Minister Toga delivered a message from President Bola Tinubu to General Abdurrahman Tiani. The two parties discussed various areas of cooperation. Francis Boniface has the details.
Yusuf Maitama Toga's visit follows the one made last August by the Nigerian Army Chief of Staff. This is the first time a high-level Nigerian civil official has visited Niger since the coup against Mohamed Bazoum in July 2023. According to several diplomatic sources, Niamey and Abuja are discussing the security situation within their shared borders. Another point of discussion between the two parties is the economic aspect. The Nigerian delegation calls for the reopening of cross-border markets on the axis that connects the northern states of Nigeria to neighboring regions of Niger, such as Maradi and Zinda, two of Niger's main granaries. The issue of energy was also at the heart of discussions. Niger, which is facing a fuel shortage, is expected to discuss with Nigeria its gas pipeline project that will connect them to Algeria. This visit by the Nigerian diplomat is part of a process of rapprochement between Abuja and Niamey after several months of tensions caused by the military takeover. Since the coup d'etat of July 26, 2023, relations between Niger and Nigeria have remained tense, particularly due to Abuja's role in the adoption of ECOWAS sanctions and the threat of military intervention against Niamey. Recently, General Abdurrahman Tiani accused Nigeria of colluding with France in an attempt to destabilize his regime. However, these accusations were formally rejected by Nigerian authorities.
That report was filed by our Niamey correspondent Mutala Zubairu, voiced by Francis Boniface.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest this evening is Professor Gorgui Dieng, a Senegalese historian and political analyst. He weighs in on the latest development in Senegal as former President Macky Sall could soon face legal action by the state. In a resolution introduced on the floor of Parliament by a member of the PASTEF parliamentary group, Guy Marius Sagna, it accuses the former president of high treason. Professor Gorgui Dieng, a Senegalese historian and political analyst.
This is something new to me. I didn't know that an MP of the respectable National Assembly would stoop that low, because it is about high treason, concealing figures. Can that be considered to be high treason? I think the President of the Republic of Senegal is protected by the Constitution. He's protected by Article 99 of the Constitution, which clearly states that the President of the Republic of Senegal is not accountable for anything that he does during his mandate apart from high treason. And it's not about figures, it's not about handling the economy. It's about something more important. That isn't something you do against the nation. If you harm the nation, if you obviously harm the nation, if your attitude, while your acts, your deeds have been recorded and testifies that this is against the interests of the nation, that is what can be considered to be high treason. But figures, to me, this is too trifling to me to be considered to be high treason to me.
Are you also saying, in other words, that this proposal is not constitutionally sound enough to be able to prosecute the former Senegalese president?
No, I would rather consider this attitude to be some manipulation. To me, a new government, a new president have been elected by the population of Senegal. What is expected by the population of the country is for that government, for that president, to face the music and do what is expected from them. That's to say, to improve the living condition of the people. If they are not able to do that, they have got to resort to something else rather than to manipulation, because this is, to me, an attitude which really diverts people from what is most important for them, that is their purchasing power, jobs, etc. If the government is not able to do that, I think that it is not respecting the Senegalese people to resort to such attitudes, because that cannot be successful.
The ruling party, PASTEF, still has a majority in the current National Assembly. Don't you think this proposed resolution will be adopted based upon its majority at the National Assembly?
Well, I mean, everything that is proposed, anything, can be accepted, because we have a mechanical majority. That has been the case since independence. This happened with the first Prime Minister of Senegal, Mamadou Dia, in 1962, when he was accused of high treason. The same mechanical majority of Parliament voted for him to be sentenced for life. And that can also happen today, because our MPs, unfortunately, do not consider what is right. They do not examine, situations in the interest of the people. They rather defend their interests. So I can say that if we rely on what has happened so far, if we consider what has happened so far, there is no doubt whatsoever that any type of proposal would be accepted. The problem is the consequence of the Parliament accepting that. Will the population accept that first? Second, will the international community accept that?
Professor Gorgui Dieng is a Senegalese historian and a political analyst. Now it's time for sports, and inside the studio I have my colleague Augustine Colley, and he was quite following the drama yesterday in the UEFA Champions League. First in the Santiago Bernabeu, and of course later on in San Siro in Italy. But please bring us up to speed with what happened in the UEFA Champions League.
Thank you. Indeed, Sankule, that's the biggest sporting news for this week. Arsenal have secured a semi-final spot in the UEFA Champions League in style after a 2-1 win on Wednesday to complete a double against holders Real Madrid. The English club is the only club to beat Real Madrid twice consecutively at the Santiago Bernabeu. England international Bukayo Saka made up for his penalty miss as he scored in the second half to put Arsenal ahead. Real Madrid leveled the score through Vinicius Junior, who bounced on Saliba's defensive error to give the Spanish club a lifeline. However, Gabriel Martinelli scored in the dying moments to complete the double against Real Madrid side that ran out of ideas on both legs. The victory means Arsenal will now take on French Ligue 1 side PSG in the semi-final, a team they previously defeated in the group stages this season. Meanwhile, Inter Milan also booked their place in the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League following a 2-2 draw against Bayern Munich to win the tie 4-3 on aggregate. This followed their 2-1 away win against the Bavarian side in the first leg last week. The Italian Giants would take on Catalonian club Barcelona, my own Barcelona, in the semi-finals in what promises to be a thrilling encounter.
Indeed, a thrilling encounter. Just quickly, yes or no, after beating Real Madrid, do you see Arsenal winning this UEFA Champions League?
Not against Barcelona.
All right, thank you very much, Augustine Colley, with the sports news. We've come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and special thanks to Imam Kodu Njai Fai and Umudanoko for the technical support. Connect with us on our social media platforms X and Instagram at WDR News and on Facebook on WDR English Service. Stay tuned for our environment program Enviroscope coming up at the bottom of the hour with Abdullah Hassan. I am Sankule Janko. Good evening.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, Newmi FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County.
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakati